I'm your host, Rachel Miller, a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Today's plank challenge is day 8, and that means whether you're on the 3-track or the 5-minute track, yes, once again, we're all doing the same amount of time, 45 seconds. I think tomorrow it changes. So 45 seconds once again today for day 8. And today I want to talk about my neurology appointment that I had yesterday. And I'm going to forewarn you that I'm feeling poopy today. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm betting if you are a lifetime listener. But I am feeling poopy because great news, Miss Miller. Everything's fine, but everything's not fine. I still have all the same symptoms and you can't find what's wrong with me. That's not fine, Anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it for the sake of anybody else that might be going through the kind of thing we have to go through when we're going to all these doctors and there are no answers and you have to hurry up and wait and all of these things. And we're paying, right? We're paying for all of these lack of answers. I realize that they're doing the best that they can and that our bodies are very complex. Our brains are just amazing machines. And so I know that it's difficult, but I don't know. I'm not going to lie, like today, I think a couple times I have thought, I'm just done. I'm done with this. I give up. Of course, I was reminded this evening by my loving boyfriend that it doesn't matter whether you give up or not. It doesn't matter whether you're done or not. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that choice to choose whether we're done or not because we have to continue to find out what is wrong. If not for healing's sake, for insurance sake, you can't just go to the insurance companies and be like, you know what, we tried, we can't find anything, we're done, and they just pay you your disability that you deserve because you pay for that insurance. You have to go through all of this rigmarole, I think is what it's called, to get the documentation and the tests done and all of that stuff. So I just feel today like I'm in this quicksand. I don't even feel like this is my life. I feel like I'm just living someone else's life right now. It's just so deflating. That's how I feel today. I don't do this podcast so that I can come across being chipper and not authentic with you. I do it so that you can hear these days. You can hear the tough days and how is she going to get out of this? How is she mentally going to get out of this? And today is really a sinker for me. I feel like I'm just not moving, I feel like I'm trapped inside this body of mine. I feel like I'm trapped inside this house. I feel like I can't do anything. And I wanted to go for a walk today. I didn't feel good enough, I just want to go for a walk. I can't. So yes, I'm complaining, but I get to do that because why? Because we get to do whatever the hell we want on this podcast. So anyway, I'm going to talk through my feelings today, share about my neurology appointment and my continuous quest for understanding of my health post-stroke. So grab your favorite drink, grab a blankie, grab a piece of chewing gum or a lollipop, which happens to be my favorite if it's a blow pop, and let's just dive right into it. So yesterday I had another appointment and it unfolded, in my opinion, it feels like I have more questions than I have answers. But honestly, I think realistically, I don't have any more answers or more questions than I had before. I think it's status quo. So the focus yesterday at my neurology appointment was an MRI, another one. This is my third one. And this was specifically targeting the interior components of my ears, looking for what clues there might be to a vestibular type of disorder that may be affecting my vision. So the result is that everything there is just as it should be. There are no anomalies, no clear culprits for my ongoing symptoms. But this is interesting. And I can't say for sure that I didn't already know this, but I can tell you nobody sat down and told me. Somebody might have mentioned it in clinical terms, but nobody explained it to me until my neurology appointment. And that is that, so my stroke was in the left upper section, in the posterior section of my brain. And forgive me if I pronounce things wrong. I don't even care. So the posterior section was what impacted my speech and language. So when I, depending on the situation, my environment, the stimulation, and all that stuff, I have a problem finding my words and that kind of thing. If I don't have it written in front of me like I do for my podcast, I can't find the words. So I make sure that I come prepared. Like, I'm not reading word for word from my script, but I have it to look at so that I don't ever get lost in the middle of my sentence. When I'm in conversation, I easily get lost, or can't find the right words, that kind of thing. So this is really typical. If they call it aphasia, but I don't even think mine's bad enough to be called aphasia. I guess it is. It's called aphasia. There's so many different levels of it. But I got diagnosed with mild neurocognitive disorder in speech and language. And that's where my stroke was. So back to what I was saying. But there was a itty bitty tiny little stroke in my occipital region. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So the occipital region, that's all the way in the back, that's your tiniest lobe. And so I have some dead brain cells back there. And it just so happens that region of the brain is what manages your that's your visual processing center. So I was like, what? Like, nobody has brought this up to me at all. And she said really confidently that this minuscule infarct, that's what it's called, the minuscule area of dead brain cells couldn't possibly be the root of my symptoms. This is what she said. Yet you can't help but wonder, right? I mean, that is my problem. My problem is visual. and balance and things that move. I can't handle it. It makes me sick. I can't look at it. I have extreme migraines every single day. Every single day I have a headache. And yet she says that this tiny little area of brain cells that are dead in the visual processing center in the back of my brain has absolutely no correlation to my symptoms. It's coincidental, if nothing else, but I have no idea, but it seemed so quickly dismissed that it's hard for me to believe that you can just kill brain cells in part of your brain and it's just definitely 100% not causing any problems. For sure, I can tell you that for sure, definitely, that is not causing your problems. I don't think you really know. I don't think you really know what's causing my problems. Nobody else seems to know. I've gone to like 4 or 5 different doctors and nobody can tell me what's wrong, but I just happen to have some dead brain cells back there. But I can tell you that's not it. Anyway. But that's why they make the money, right? That's why they make all the money, because they can look at something like this blurry little picture of a big black squirrely snake looking thing with a white dot and say that was a stroke and that did not impact your vision or whatever's happening with you. So I feel like I need a second opinion though. And this has been the first sign of something in the region that impacts my vision and the perception of movement and the environment. Like, I don't know. I'm sure you get what I'm saying here. So the other thing that they found in my MRI, since they were in my ear area, is that my TMJ, which is, I'm going to try to pronounce it, temporomandibular joint in my left jaw is severely damaged. So when I was in high school, my friend's family and I went to Ocean City, and we were swimming in the hotel pool, and I swam down to the bottom of the pool in the deep end, and my jaw locked at the bottom of the deep end. And I frantically swam up to the top and told my friend, like, my jaw is locked. Like, I was panicking, trying to open my jaw, like force it open, which you can't do if it's locked. And that was the very beginning of a lifelong issue with TMJ. So I went to I can't think of the word right now. You're gonna have to stay with me here. The braces people, orthodontists, and they gave me a splint to wear. And I've been wearing a splint since I was in high school. I still wear it every night. It's not the same splint, mind you. That would be disgusting. But I have, excuse me, I have to, in order for my jaw to not be in pain or lock or any of these things or click. Like, I actually have accommodated how I open and shut my jaw and how I eat, the types of foods I eat and stuff, to I accommodate for my TMJ, and I always have, to the point that I just don't even recognize that I do that anymore. But my MRI showed that my jaw is severely damaged. They labeled it severe. That's pretty bad. And completely unrelated to my stroke issues, but it could result in my jaw just breaking. I think that's what they told me back when I was younger. Or I could get jaw surgery. I'm sure that the treatment has changed a lot over the years, what they can do to it. But anyway, I'm going to put that on the back burner. And I was thinking, really, like, my situation is so whacked right now that having a severe jaw injury goes on the back burner right now. I mean, that's great, you know? It's just, whoa, frustrating, confusing, lost. You know, I'm all of these things right now. So with these, I guess, lack of revelations, you know, I mean, I did feel like I learned a little something yesterday, regarding the other mini stroke that I had. But I'm really kind of left standing at a familiar crossroads that I keep finding myself at after each neurology appointment. So every couple months, I have a neurologist appointment, and I end up coming right back to the same place, which is like a cross between relief and frustration. Relief because there isn't any life-threatening discovery that is unveiled in front of me on these MRIs and all these other tests that I'm taking. But frustration because the quest for answers continues. And each appointment leaves me more deflated. So the doctor said to me, how are you doing? You know, and I this is wrong, my head's still hurting, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, well, let's look at the MRI. All right. And then she said, okay, so everything looks great. And it was like, it kind of set me aback because I was like, should I be excited or not excited? Because that's great that everything looks great, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to find out that everything is great. You know what I mean? It's, there's this place where I want to find out what's wrong. I want to make sure that it's not life-threatening or anything. And I don't even care if it's treatable, but I want to know that something is wrong. Like, somebody's got to find something wrong, because I cannot even function on a daily basis. I cannot do any of the things that other normal people are doing. And I've been doing this for 7 months. You know, I just feel like I'm going to explode today. And that's okay. It's okay for me to feel like I'm going to explode today. And it's okay for me to talk about that, because we're going to see where I end up here tomorrow. And if I'm all like, everything's great, or if I'm like, I did explode, we'll see. But today, I can say this one thing. In the midst of all of the emotions that I was feeling yesterday, it feels like a post-neurology hangover. That's what it feels like. But in the midst of all of the emotions today, I did have a moment of clarity that struck me during my conversation with my friend. For the first time, I felt a genuine wave of acceptance. It was fleeting, but I did feel it for a hot second. It was like, yes, I can be permanently disabled. I can handle this. And then it was gone. It was just literally for a hot second. And if the future holds answers for me, then that's wonderful. But until then, I think that what has happened today, that moment of clarity, is that is where I need to go. And I know that I've talked about acceptance, but it's like I'm trying to talk myself into it. Every time I talk about acceptance on here, it's like I'm trying to talk myself into acceptance, but I'm not really feeling it. And I'm sure that makes sense to somebody. Um, but it's like I have been holding on to some sense of hope that I was going to get better and that I'm really going to go back to my career. Like, I'm really going to go back to normal. And for that little moment today, I realized that I'm not. I'm not going to be normal. And forgive me if I'm, saying things that I've been saying for the past 7 months, but that's what it takes. And I'm sure other people that go through a life-altering event like this have to have this kind of continued self-talk. I did have another stroke survivor reach out to me on Facebook. I think it was yesterday. And his symptoms post-stroke are very different than mine. Lost movement in a lot of parts of his body and that kind of thing. But we've been talking, and it's being able to talk to people like that helped me. I tried to go to a stroke recovery meeting today, but once again, I showed up today and it's not until next Thursday. So I don't know how my calendar is just always wrong, but I never had that problem when I was working. My calendar was always right, and now it's always wrong, and it doesn't even make any sense. Like, today's a Friday and I had this stroke support group meeting on my calendar, and it's actually next Thursday. So I have no idea. It's almost laughable. Anyway, so what's next? Next is on February 28th, I have an ear a hearing test. And I've had a hearing test. I don't think it was post-stroke. I can't remember, but I have a hearing test, which is more of the same, like going down this road of vestibular disorder. And then on March 6th, I'll be meeting with a otolaryngologist. And this is the ear, nose, and throat gal. And this appointment is a precursor to hopefully being referred to a neurotologist. And the neurotologist is the specialist with vestibular disorders. But this otolaryngologist is, I believe, going to give me tests for vestibular dysfunction. And I think those tests are like turning around in circles, and then she's going to look and see how my eyes move, because there's certain ways that your eyes move if you can or cannot handle different kinds of changes in your environment. So I couldn't be more certain, people, that they're going to find something at this one, because I can't, like, when I'm walking outside with Boris and Autumn, and like if the leash goes around my back and I need to turn around to, like, you either move the leash behind you into your other hand, or you just turn your whole body around. That's what I used to do, but now I have to change hands. If I turn my whole body around, it's like, woo, like I can't handle that. So fingers crossed that something will be found. I mean, this is all I got. Like, this is the end of the road for me. All I have left is to check my vestibular system. So, I don't know what happens if they don't find anything in my, like a vestibular disorder, then what do they do? I don't know, because I still have my symptoms and they can't find the cause for the symptoms, but they also can't find proof of my symptoms. So I don't know what they do in that case. But like my psychiatrist said, it's not my job. All my job is to manage my symptoms and make my day more enjoyable. And today was not enjoyable. I'm just saying, it wasn't enjoyable. I tried, but it just wasn't. But there's always tomorrow, right? There's always tomorrow. And in the meantime, I am going to keep learning how to adapt to my new life and settle into maybe an unexpected early retirement as a young woman navigating a disability. Young woman. And this is not easy at all. And I know that everybody who's listening, everybody has something going on that's not easy. And it may seem like, well, I'm listening because, wow, she's got a lot going on and stuff. But I know that when I was working and before my stroke, when I was working and I was dealing with people and dealing with my workload, dealing with back when my kids were younger, trying to manage doing everything, getting dinner on the table, driving to, 3 hours, an hour and a half each way. And like all of that is not easy. It's all not easy. Like we can't compare to each other. It's all not easy. I talk a lot about the disease of alcoholism on this podcast. And the reason why, obviously, is because it's my top priority in my life. Because if I drink, nothing else matters anymore. Everything will just crash and burn if I drink. So I talk about it also, and because and I fear that this doesn't come across a lot of times, that people who listen to this podcast and do not suffer from alcoholism may feel that it's not relatable. But the thing is that everything that's practiced in my sobriety program can absolutely be practiced by anybody who's not an alcoholic. The whole program is about learning how to manage life and still keep your shit together. I mean, everybody has these different things that they do when life gets hard. Some of them are most people, I think, have something unhealthy that they do when life gets hard. Like nobody's perfect. But what I would love is if when life gets hard, I go for a run. Let's pretend that I can run. When life gets hard, I go for a run. Or when life gets hard, I call my psychiatrist. Or, when life gets hard, I take a bubble bath. Well, that's beautiful, and some people do that, but it's not perfect every time. And I just feel really strongly that this thing about recovery, this topic of recovery in this podcast, I've said it before, we're all recovering from something. There is something that has happened in our lives that we need each other for. And that's why the podcast exists. Because I need you, and I guarantee you that you need somebody also. Because we do. We all need somebody, and none of us are unique. There's nothing that I have gone through that another human being hasn't gone through. In fact, I know people who I know another person in my sobriety program who is an alcoholic and had a stroke. Like, I'm not even unique in that. And so we need each other, and I don't know. I hope that it comes across when I'm talking about sobriety, that I hope it resonates sometimes with people who don't have the disease of alcoholism. So where was I going? I went on a tangent there. So I was talking about how it isn't easy, and there are days lately in my life that have been filled with despair, frustration, and it feels like endless questions. But there are also moments in there, little itty bitty tiny moments of clarity, just like little itty bitty jolts of lightning, not a bolt of lightning, but a little jolt of lightning. So those little jolts, that's hope. And I am recognizing, I continue to make sure that I look at myself in the mirror and say, this is your journey. This happened to you, Rachel. You are a stroke survivor. You are 49 years old. You were 46 at the time. You're a stroke survivor, and this is you now. You're lucky to be alive. You're an alcoholic in recovery. You're lucky that you lived through that. You've lived through two things that take a lot of people out of this world, and you're still here. And so I share my story, my good days, my bad days, my sadness, my suggestions to myself that you just get to overhear because I'm talking to myself in a microphone. And I'm sharing about my climb. And I feel like I'm climbing a lot lately. What I could really use is some of you to reach out to me and tell me about how you're climbing. Like, how are you doing? What's going on with you? Because I sure would like to hear it. I really would. You can email me at rachel@recoverydailypodcast.com if you have anything to say. It would be truly embraced if I would get an email from you. So thank you so much for listening today. Together we will navigate these uncertainties. There's everything ahead of us is unseen, and we will find strength in having this podcast as a home base that we can return to for a little bit of time each day. And it's like a familiar little space in time each day for a story, it's like a little story time. I actually have this really cozy feeling when I sit down to record my podcast. So that's really comforting for me. I'm glad that I have it, and I hope that you feel similar when you hit play to listen. So I will meet you back here tomorrow. Until then, take another step forward towards the stuff that's uncomfortable. That's what I'm doing. So I will talk to you tomorrow.